And a very good morning to you from New York. A very good afternoon to you in Asia, an evening to you in Australasia, in what is truly a global time zone broadcast where we are bringing you all together for this quest for smart city tech investments in China. And a very good day, and that's a better way, isn't it? Instead of all this morning, afternoon, and evening, a very good day to you. And I think we're pretty much, as if I'm not mistaken, I'm Richard Quest, by the way, in case you hadn't worked that bit out. I'm Richard Quest, and I'm in New York this morning, where it is just 5 o'clock in the morning. But I think we are all on Thursday, so we can say a very good day to you wherever you may be. For those, one housekeeping note to bring to your attention, there is simultaneous translation to Mandarin, and on your screen you can see a button where you can go backwards and forwards between the two. I'm not sure why you would want to go backwards and forwards, but if such that there be, then there we are. And I do sort of always feel a little sorry for the translators who have to do battle with my language and vocabulary. I promise them I shall do my best to keep it as straightforward as possible. I'm delighted you're with us this morning, evening. I'm delighted you're with us this day. And I want to introduce to you our host and the person who invited me to moderate, which I think is going to be one of the most fascinating discussions, because nothing's off limits here. I think you need to understand that as we go through our discussion, we will be talking about the things that you need to know about if you're thinking of investments. And that means you can't shy away from certain subjects, certain topics. You get the idea. With me is Benson Tam, the founder and chairman of Venturous Group. You're going to hear me talk a lot about jigsaws over the next hour and how each of our participants is a piece of the jigsaw. Benson is the first piece of the jigsaw, the bit that sets everything up, and the last piece of the jigsaw who makes it into a whole picture. As chairman of Venturous Group, what do you, Benson, tell us, what do you want to get out of today?
Well, good morning to you, Richard, and thank you for doing this for all of us. I think today I just want to celebrate the smart city that is going to be how my daughter and all our children will be living their lives in 20, 30 years. I also want to celebrate all my best friends that I've brought along to the show today. And I think it is basically, as you say, open discussion. I'll leave it to you, Richard. Take us on the journey.
The journey of building our jigsaw. Benson, thank you. We'll hear from you in just a second. I want to introduce our other thought leaders. Savio Kwan is with us, probably best known for being Alibaba's first COO. He is with us and now leading his own consulting firm, A&K. We are hoping, Savio, that you're going to be delightfully indiscreet and tell us what it was really like in the early days of Alibaba. Michael Kwok is with us, the East Asia Chairman of Arup. Michael, you're the piece of the jigsaw that really is the builder. You make it happen. All these other people can have all the most wonderful ideas in the world, but if you can't build it, they won't come, so to speak. And so you are that important piece of the jigsaw, and you will explain to us what it's really like building something in China. Whatever the myths we've heard, whatever the reality, can you get it done? John Peng is with me. John Peng is the Vice President and Head of Business Strategy at iSoftStone. And again, this is all part of the issue of how you make it happen, how you can actually build it, the piece of the jigsaw that is the reality part. You see, we've got to be very careful today that we don't all luxuriate in long-winded discussions of airy-fairy projects, because at the end of the day, somebody has to build it. And the one thing we do know, the one thing we know about city tech and smart cities is it's all about the practicalities as well as the philosophy. So John's with us for that. Finally, Dale Nicholls is with us. And Dale is the portfolio manager of Fidelity China Special Situations PLC. The money man. Well, one of the money men, but the institutional money man. And as such, he has a different view. His view is going to be Does it make economic sense? Is it viable? Will we make money? I'm not just investing with my good friends, I'm investing people's pensions. I need to know it's going to make sense. And so that's why I say to you, joining us wherever you are in the world, our group today is diverse in the sense that they are all spectrums of the Citytech. Let's go straight away to the first piece of the jigsaw. And it is Benson Tam, who is back with us, the Chairman of Venturous Group. Benson, where did your interest in smart cities and Citytech come from? One doesn't wake up in the morning and suddenly say, this is something I wish to do. Where does it come from?
Well, you're right. In fact, it took quite a few years before it dawned on me that this is something I want to spend the rest of my life doing. As they say, the last gig. I've been searching for the next big thing since 2012, when I, after a year or two, I started my own family office. And it was clear that the mobile internet is evolving to something even bigger. And some people call it, business internet, industrial internet. But the real aha moment came one day when I was talking to iSoftStone's CEO, the founder of the company that John Peng is part of, when TW said something strange has happened. 3 city mayors have actually come to my office when usually I have to traipse all the way out. And so he said, something has happened. And so that's why there was the aha moment that we realized that Smart City, which he has been working on in terms of Citytech for quite a few years, the moment has come. So that's why I started thinking about it long and hard. And I realized that this is probably one of those rare moments where you can make a lot of money for everyone. You can actually create something very, very valuable for our next generation, and being a civil engineer myself, have a bit of fun.
Right. So let's just see you having some fun. Back in 2005, we all looked, don't worry, Benson, we all looked younger and better in our earlier days. You're in Xi'an, the ancient capital city. And I think that it's important because we talk about something like Xi'an, an ancient city, but what you're involved with now is building the next generation of ancient cities, if you like. What is the touchstone for these new cities? Besides being livable, what do they have to have?
In order for cities to be smart, I think first of all, it has to be livable, but it needs to be sustainable. Pollution, congestion is such a big problem. But also the third one is that cities going forward, if you want to be carbon neutral and all that, you need to be a lot more productive. So those are the 3 keywords for us when we say we want to make cities smart. Those are the key things. And in order for the smart city to be smart, clearly it has to be technology. And that's where we come in, and that's why we are China's #1 Citytech group. It's the technology. It's the important thing that makes the city, shall we say, the magic dust that make it programmable, computable, and productive.
So from 2005, you've got all of this together. You've got the family office. You've told us, and I think there's a lovely quote that I've got, I want to leave a legacy and make the world better, not only for my daughter, for all young people globally. Smart Citytech will be good for business. It will be better for the planet. Here you are, a couple of years ago, this next picture, showing us the launch of Venturous Group in Hong Kong in 2019. The decision to go down that route, is your driving force to make money, or is it to build better, or can you not divorce the two?
I think what I learned is that when you create gigantic companies like the technology giants today, you have to be doing good as well as profitable. The two are together. And I think having started doing it in 2019, I realize now it's not just making money for myself. It is creating value, as Savio, my Kung Fu master, always say, it is the value, not just the money. It is about creating value for myself, my team, for all the sort of capital partners that we have as our investors, but also all the citizens who will benefit from the smart city. So
Right.
it is actually creating value. Yeah.
I promised our viewers at the beginning nothing's off limits, and therefore we have to talk about the worsening relations of US and China. Now, admittedly, they are improving vis-a-vis the awfulness of that they reached in the Trump administration, but an investment into something like this, even though it's a long-term investment, how concerned are you? I mean, in your factoration, how do you factor in the geopolitical situation?
Well, good question, Richard. You know, as an investor, we look at this very hard-nosed. And to me, as a technology investor, I would focus on where I'm good at, which is technology. And if you purely look at the technology, then there is really two global powerhouses. One is, of course, the US, and rising up now, you can also see is China. It's basically two centers. The reason I believe that there is inevitably going to be a lot of dialogue trade through the technology is, if there's one thing I learned from COVID, it is that the world is going digital. Therefore, technology is the way forward. And I think ultimately, I can't imagine a world without trade. And I think technology is trade is potentially the bridges that we can build between the two great nations.
Before we leave you on this, and we'll come back to others in a second, should we be worried at the current moves taking place in China, or is this an indication of a maturing of an economy into a better regulated environment?
I would say that this is the chaos before the order, because digital economy is a new order that is emerging, and everybody is adapting to this. And clearly, of course, a lot of tectonic changes around the world, industrially, business-wise, even in a sense, nation-to-nation relationships, supply chains. But I truly believe that having seen what has happened in the past, let's say in the early 90s, when China emerged into a new China, a new economy, this is, as they say, the chaos that turns into order. I call it the order out of chaos. So I'm actually very excited. I actually believe that this is the best time to be making investments, because this is one of those very strategic turning point moments where a lot of people, shall we say, throw the baby out with the bathwater and actually miss the fact that the seed has grown with roots and it's shooting up. So this is the moment. Yeah.
I think, Benson, you've given us the quote of the morning or the day so far. Chaos turns into order. We shall follow that. Stay where you are. Don't go too far. Grab a glass of water. We'll come back to you in our discussion afterwards. Turning to, remember the jigsaw. Benson is the first piece on the table when you're building your jigsaw, and he's the last piece that makes the picture. But now you've got to build your jigsaw, and that's Michael Kwok, who is the chairman of Arup in East Asia and a strategic partner of Venturous. I'm not going to spare your blushes. I am absolutely not. Look at this picture. Look at this picture from 1982. All right. Yeah. I mean, even you, somewhere in there is Benson, and somewhere then is Michael. In 1982 at Imperial College. What? I don't know what you were thinking in terms of haircuts, but that was the start of this great friendship that's since lasted 30 years.
Absolutely. Thank Richard for bringing up this picture. It does actually bring back lots of fond memories. I don't know whether you recognize who is me, who is Benson, but this is, I would say, the good old days where life is absolutely colorful and exciting. And the fact I know Benson at 40 years old, well, I'm at risk of disclosing our age.
Right.
Actually, not only just been with Benson in the same school for same university for 3 years, but actually we shared a dormitory for one whole year.
Oi, and you're still talking 30 years later. That's an achievement. Tell me about the principal difficulties of building a building in China, because it's one thing to, and we're going to show some of your buildings in a moment, but the core it is. What is the difficulty of it all?
Well, I think the difficulty is you have to keep improving. China will not want to do the same thing again and again. They want to do something different from the previous projects. So they always come to me and say, Michael, what's going to be new for my project? What's the latest technology? What's the first thing I can do in China? So I think the challenge really in China is to keep moving forward, keep innovating, maintain the creativity and the passion. I mean, that's always, I would say, exciting for people like myself as an engineer, because we do like challenges and we do want to take on difficult projects. But actually, I think I start to feel that I'm more like a creator of possibilities now.
And we've got an example of creation of possibilities, the Sydney Opera House, which Arup built. Now, Jan Utzon, when he designed it, he had no idea how it was ever going to be built. Arup nearly put itself into an early grave and a headache in trying to build this thing, but you did. And I want you to take that Sydney Opera House as an example of how you can build these various digital twin and smart cities.
Yeah, it's that persistence of making things so possible. I mean, I would say for us, impossible is nothing. But for Arup, we have all these clever minds across the world, and we can always get onto our phone to get to the nearest experts. And I mean, that's how this really strong search for innovation really pushed the firm forward for the past 75 years. Well, we celebrate our 75th anniversary this year. And for Arup, growing to a really a top firm in the world, delivering all these amazing projects across the world.
The beauty of talking to you is I don't need to talk to you. I need to show the pictures, because your evidence is standing. Take the Gherkin in London. Whether you love it or you hate that particular building, I have actually been to the top. It is an extraordinary building. And same for the Marina Bay Sands, which you constructed in Singapore. I think that was like the Sydney Opera House. I think that was particularly brave to impose on the skyline a building that was going to become a landmark both in Sydney and in Singapore.
And of course, we are one of the jigsaw puzzle in this whole delivery of world-class iconic projects. And of course, we work very closely with other professionals, with our client, with our partners. And the fact we have a mix of engineers, planner, designer, specialists, consultant. I mean, this is really about teamwork and collaborative approach to deliver, I mean, the project we just shown us.
Do you think that China wants, perhaps a silly question, bearing in mind the examples I'm going to show, do you think China wants landmarks? So these new cities have to be more, I mean, look, I've been to China many times and I can see there's lots of examples of boxes, dozens of boxes, buildings to house thousands of people. That's the workmanlike. But at the same time, you have the bird's nest, which we could show, and you've got the water cube. All of these are examples of superb engineering designed to advance architecture. How now finally can you take these examples and translate them into smart cities and city tech?
And I think building actually reflect the era of the city that they are going through. So it's not just the iconicness of the building, but actually it reflects the kind of mood or the sort of like the important transformation that's happening in city like Beijing. I mean, the few example you point out really it is demonstrating Beijing have transformed itself to a really innovative and welcoming city, which is obviously happened to be around the same time as the Olympics. And I think that really transformed not just the city itself, but the people who live and work in the city of Beijing. I actually personally live in Beijing for that 6 years, and I actually feel the whole change and transformation happening.
Michael Kwok, stay with us. Do not go far. With me now is John Peng, the EVP at iSoftStone, and Benson is on iSoftStone's board for many years, and Venturous is one of the investors in iSoftStone, a digital transformation. The piece of the jigsaw that you put in many ways is similar to what we've just heard from Michael Kwok. He's building, but you're putting in the smart stuff. I mean, it's not quite as delineated as that. Why does this work for you, Citytech?
Yes, I think it's a very good analogy. They're building, Michael's building the beautiful buildings. We're putting some really nerves and brains into the building. So we make the buildings and even the areas smarter. And I think the smart city construction started with big pressures from the government as the city urbanization has rapidly developing. Yeah.
Let's take a look at this campus photograph which shows the potential for all of this. Right. I don't know whether it's a dream or a nightmare to explain the concept of living in this, because not only do we have a campus, we also have a residential example, and I'm wondering how different this is to what we've got today.
Yeah, this is actually not a dream. It's already a reality. The two pictures you just showed are real digital twin, for that particular place, residential community, and as well as a corporate campus, which has been built digitally. You virtualize the building. You can see what's going on in the building, not only the people, but also the different components. For example, elevators. You can see there, and you can see the work spaces. You can monitor the building. Yeah. John,
the event's taking place at the moment. Again, I promised our viewers that we would grasp difficult nettles. The question of data and data privacy in China is obviously relevant. Now, for a company like yourselves, which is a software company dealing with this very material, how are you navigating this?
Yeah, so we have been very conscious of the data privacy, data security. I think in the projects we were doing, we will discuss with our clients on how the data will be handled. And also I think from the legal perspective, more and more in China, regulations and laws are put into place, and the more enforcement are on the way. And there are a few examples, as you see, some major companies like Alibaba, Tencent, Didi, which is ride-sharing major companies, are all been investigated by the government because of the data handling they have been doing. So we are, as a company, are very conscious, sensitive to the data security, and we make sure we work with our clients to protect the individual personal data as well as the corporate data they have.
And
so
related to that, the significance of balancing because we're going to hear from international investors in a minute, balancing international investment priorities with different regulatory environments. GDPR in the UK, US has its own, China now has its own. Balancing that is not easy, but can it be done?
Yes, exactly. It's not easy, that it can be done. You know, it's you just have to have a team with the expertise on the different legal requirements and the data requirements. When you work with a client from Europe, you have to work with them and comply with the GDPR requirements. If you're working with a U.S. company, you have to be aware of the CCPA, I believe that's called, the and other data security requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now China has its own and a new laws, regulations. They just published their data, digital data laws.
I want to finish by looking at one of your control rooms, just briefly. It looks complicated. Well, I mean, it not looks complicated. It is bloody complicated. It's complicated. Is this the future? That our cities, in the old days, levers, pulleys, and steam and dials. It shows my age. But is this the future for all of us now? These major.
Well, I think this is going to be part of the future digital life. There will be control, digital control rooms, dashboards to help you really manage monitoring your environment and early detect the issues, potential risks. There are, I think, as you know, the environmental issues right now. The weather has become much worse because natural disasters are happening. And you need systems like this to make sure you respond fast and well, to save lives and improve the standards of living.
Final question. What's the next big thing? What is I know you can't give any secret, but the next big thing?
Well, the next big thing is really the digital economy, the digital city. What we call the city will be fully digitalized, and you can view the city and in different perspectives. You can see through the city, to predict in many ways how what you're going to do, and and make arrangement accordingly. So living will become much smarter and easier, hopefully.
John Peng, thank you. Our jigsaw becomes ever closer. We've done the person, you can see them there. There's Benson, who starts it all off. Michael builds and literally sort of makes these things a reality. John Peng is putting together the infrastructure inside, if you like, the smart tech bit. But you need a bit of vision here and the operator, and you need to know what you're doing if you're doing business in China. Savio does. Savio Kwan is the former COO of Alibaba and joins me now. Savio, you were listening to the others speak, and you have real life experience of running one of the largest companies in China. What's it like?
I think we talked about infrastructure, we talked about money, we talked about ideas and so on, but and digitization. But now it is a time to talk about people and how smart they are, their mind. I think we have to believe that people can do almost anything if you allow them the right kind of environment. So I think that is really the premise. When we started, when Jack Ma started Alibaba, almost like I joined some 20-some years ago. So
just a minute. We require proof. We require proof. And there it is. Yourself and Jack Ma. Was there a feeling? Was there a feeling back then that something was happening? Well, first, before you answer that, did you doubt? did you ever doubt that it would be successful? And at what point did you and Jack feel, whoa, this is going to be bigger than we can imagine?
We had no idea, absolutely none. But we really believe in Jack's vision of let's make doing business easy. I think that is really the first thing, is you have to find a biggest possible problem to solve for someone. So this someone is other business people. And we have so many business people, not only in China, but in all over the world. So we are trying to help them solve their business problem, making doing business easier with the internet, which was introduced the year 2000 when Jack, just a year before Jack actually started up Alibaba in 1999. I think that actually is really something. But we had no idea how big it could have gone to. But the clear thing is that we make sure everybody understood that we are there. Our mission is to help business, making doing business easy. So that actually is really the key.
Quick question. Did it, and does it still piss you off with the comparisons of Alibaba and Amazon?
Absolutely. You know, we are not the same, and we do different things, and we came up with the ideas. Jack came up with his ideas completely independently, and we just try to make sure that we solve the problem for our target customer the best way we can.
So with this vast experience from Alibaba, how are you using that for smart cities and Citytech and these projects? What do you bring to the table in terms of experience and ability to advance Benson's agenda?
I think really, you know, I mean, you have all the other things, but you really have to have the belief in people being smart. So you have to actually work with their mind, and you have to absolutely come up with systems that actually helps it. For instance, at Ali, the key thing is the company culture and value. So you systemize the whole thing. So everybody understands it exactly the same. Even though when you started with 18 people like Jack, and then now I think we have over 250,000 people. They all have the same understanding of what we're trying to do. That becomes quite powerful. And then you also come up with the business model. The business model means that you figure out what you actually bring value.
Right.
And then question. You only bring value if people are willing to pay for it, and in a scale that is making your business worthwhile.
And when we look at this, and we look at scale, and we look at people, and we look at vision, we've got all of those things. But what do you, in terms of Citytech, smart Citytech, and doing business in China, which, as Michael and John have already pointed out, you know, there's an experience of building these big projects, but there's also a difficulty in doing it. What would your advice be?
Yes, I think it cannot go be. We have to all go back to basic. Who are our target customers, and what value do we bring to them? So that absolutely defines everything. So in a way, you're talking about infrastructure, but not only just the building infrastructure, but the digitization that iSoftStone is bringing to the table together with Arup, who's coming with the other infrastructure. But we are also talking about an infrastructure of mind. That is, how do you organize the mind to make it happen? The sustainability and the prioritization of all the problems of a smart city that you're solving. Is it going to be power? Is it going to be environment? Is it going to be carbon emission? All those. And what are your priorities?
I can hear viewers with us now just wanting to know, how is Jack? Let's look at them. You know, we've got another picture of you and Jack together from the early days. Look at you all, again, 2001. How is he doing, and how's Alibaba doing, and are you concerned?
Jack is well and is keeping a low profile, which is a very good thing. And I think it is all part of our learning. Everybody's learning how to do such a business in China, and I think everybody's learning, and then the government is leading and helping us to make sure that this is going to be more regulated and fair, and then the customers, the users are protected. So I think that is a good thing.
So related to that, Savio, Benson gave us what I think is the quote of the morning, or the quote of the day. He says, "Chaos turns into order." And I sort of, when he said it, I sort of went, chaos. We don't want chaos. But I see what he means in terms of that, and I guess you understood exactly what he means from those early days at Alibaba.
Absolutely. I mean, chaos. We had no, we had a burn of something like $2 million a month, and we only have 10 million. So that was in 2001. We'll die in 5 months, but we'll die much earlier than that if we do not pull out the stop. So we stop the burn in 30 days and bring it down to $500,000, and then left with $9 million. But then we do not have a business model. We did not have a business model of what are we going to do to help the business people, and then it came from nowhere. When you talk about chaos, Jack and me and Joe, after having faced the investor, we have board meeting every month. It's almost like a shareholders meeting. Then we sort of retire to a small room and ask a key question. We didn't know why we asked the key question. We asked the key question of, should we do bribe?
Right.
So it is chaos. I mean, Jack has no idea what bribing means. He has no idea what business means at that time. And then he started asking questions. How much is bribe? Is it $5, $500, or $5,000 and so on? And in the end, we had a whole day meeting, complete chaos, and figuring out how to deal with this. And eventually, Jack asked the key question: if we do bribing and things go wrong, who goes to jail? So Joe and I were so happy. We point at Jack and say, "Jack, you go to jail." And Jack says, "Savio, if I went to jail, would you and Joe come and visit me?" And then we really, double up laughing, because Joe and I said, "Look, Jack, if we did, bribing and you went to jail, Joe and I would be waiting for you in jail to hold our management meeting." So we decided not to bribe. But out of that came our business model, would you believe? Why? Because all the things we went back to examine what we do, a product A, B, C, D, E, all of them involve bribing, or could involve bribing if we want to do it. And then there's only one product that would not involve bribing, is to help the SME bosses, not the SME company, but the SME bosses to export. They would not want you to bribe anybody in their company because they are the owner. We found that, and then we focus all our effort on talking to the SME bosses only. Nobody, not the factory manager, not the marketing manager, not the sales manager, nobody, not the secretary or finance manager, but only to the bosses. And that is how we build the B2B business from nothing to $1 billion in a few years.
Savio, thank you. Stay with us. That was brilliant. I did not expect at the top of the hour that we would end up having a discussion about how Alibaba spent management time talking about bribing before deciding to talk to bosses. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, Savio. Stay with me. The final piece of our jigsaw before we have our big discussion is Dale Nicholls, the money man. Well, it's not his money. Dale, it's not your money, as it might be with some of our other guests. It's my money, frankly. It's a pension fund with Fidelity. And I guess the answer here is, what are you looking for? Because as the money person who has a strategic interest and is involved, why you come to this table with different criteria. different hard-nosed criteria that the City of London and Wall Street will look at? Why does it make sense for you?
Yeah, well, I think smart city in general, the first thing you have to be attracted to is the size of the prize. It's a huge market. By some estimates, it could be as big as sort of $2 trillion, and we know that it's growing. And then secondly, something that's quite topical right now is that it's got a lot of government support. The smart city concept in many forms has been mentioned in most 5-year plans going back to the 90s. So it's nice to be sort of aligned with that sort of that big picture. So it's the opportunity is sort of where we start, and then obviously the next thing is sort of how to access that opportunity.
And accessing it through this, we know smart cities are important, but do they make a good investment? I know you visit, as we've seen here with these pictures, you visit places and you actually go and look at the companies or the areas you invest in. Are you doing that here?
Yeah, absolutely. And we trust Benson and the team, but to be honest, we've sort of taken a good look under the hood at a lot of the companies that are in the portfolio. So the likes of iSoftStone, the likes of Anjay, and that sort of thing. Obviously, we do a lot of sort of background work on the potential industry they're in, but we really try to understand how they're positioned competitively. Because you can have the opportunity, but you've got to have a business that has a real competitive moat, has real competitive advantage. So you have the opportunity, you have the business, and then you need the management teams. So you can have management needs to execute. And when we've sort of sat down with the teams, talked about the strategy, seen their records of execution, that's what's given us confidence that this makes sense. The final piece is valuation, but that's also made sense for us. So
you've got the idea, you've got the execution, and you've got the valuation. But Dale, whenever I see the word special situations in any investment fund, I always think, way up, hold on to your wallet. So, this is going to be very risky. It's a special situation. And I always think either this is not for me because I'm just ordinary, or this is something that only the insiders know about. A special situation, Dale.
Yeah, I think it just means we can be very broad in how we think about opportunities. And we look at the whole, the scope of opportunities. So we operate primarily in the listed space, but we can look at, as in this case, sort of unlisted opportunities. And we also look across, the sort of broad range of market caps. So obviously you have the sort of the big, large companies that we're all familiar with, but we have a significant team on the ground that can go, quite small as well. All different types of opportunities, really.
By the way, let me just ask our people who are with us, please ask questions. I can see questions are coming in, and we're going to be moving. Oh, look, there's lots of them. I'm going to be going to questions in just a moment. Final one for you. As this picture shows, the returns on investments. I did a bit of Googling about you. Now, in this particular line, I'm assuming the blue is the benchmark, is you, and you're beating the benchmark, which must be the green and or the mauve, because your returns have been better than your benchmarks. I could flatter you and say that's because you have better acumen. Why do you think it is?
I think it's a very sort of, basic process about how we sort of analyze stocks. Obviously, we have a fantastic team that's on the ground looking for ideas, but it's just a very sort of rigid process that we go through and analyze companies. We're able to sort of get out there and I think, find ideas early before they're, ideally discovered by the market.
And then it becomes
it's that day-to-day process, really.
Dale, thank you. Join me, please. Let's bring the jigsaw together. All pieces of the jigsaw now come together. And here you all are. All right, questions. And by the way, any of you can jump in on these. And these are questions from people who have been joined with us. Andrea Webster, she asks, why is China not involved in the Smart City Alliance led by WEF? The 36 cities being followed for the project, none are in China, which I think raises the question, and I think this is one perhaps either for Benson or Savio. The role of the cities, Benson, to you, I think, the cities that you're investing in and that you're building and you're putting money in, is it China alone? Are you only focused in that sense on China? Does China want to be involved in what others are doing elsewhere?
Absolutely. I think you need to understand the moment in time in the timeline of smart cities. We are still probably in the first 10 meters of a marathon. There are about 800 districts in China, all experimenting and improving and trying smart city stuff. But everybody's trying. And I think it's probably too early to think about standardizations,
Right.
because just like what Savio said, who are your customers? What is the value you bring to the table? Once you do that, then you know what you need to deliver, which is the product and the service. And finally, you come up with the standardization. I think China probably think that we really don't know what we're doing, in the sense that it's in Chinese, we call it, let 100 flowers blossom and let's see where it takes us. The order out of chaos, so to speak. And that's the early days. And I think within China, there's a lot of discussion. And there are a lot of these smart city consortiums, the viewer who presented the question, feel free, come in, talk to us.
Right. I'm going to be brutal here, Benson, because we have the questions are coming in fast and I want to get through them. This is for Michael Kwok and John Peng. How do we upgrade old cities, e.g. Hong Kong, into smart cities? It seems like most of the smart activity is done on new land, new communities. So first of all, John Peng, you're nodding. Is it possible to re-engineer, to reverse engineer old cities?
Yes, absolutely. I think many of our projects have been done on old cities. You can, first of all, I think you need to plan, really. You need to think about of your pain points, and then, plan out and engage the right companies to help you. I think there has been experiences in our company and others that help the old city to transform.
Michael, are you more interested in building new or re-engineering old?
No, absolutely. We are interested in revitalizing, regenerating the older buildings. The fact is, I mean, there's a big building stock, which are actually contributing to a lot of the carbon emissions. So it is very important that we have to deal with the existing building stock. And I think we can't solve the problem if we cannot measure. So I think this is where the technology and digital coming in is by collecting the data to be able to do the analytic, and also be able to come up with the insights that really enable people to find a solution.
This is a question that is built for Savio. It's from Eric Guizhang. This is one, it's got your name on it. Smart City is a system, including technical, finance, policy, and operation. How do you build this system how do you build this into an effective system?
I think you have to start with your own mind. When you're talking about smart city, not only are you putting the infrastructure, the digitization and so on, but in fact, you actually have to change your mind. The old mindset of how things should be working has to give way to new mindsets. In fact, the other day, my doctor tells me that in meditation, he was teaching me meditation, I should actually digitize my mind. And I find it astonishing, because he said, no longer are we in the era of getting things ready, warming up, and then press the button and then add the acceleration and go. No, with digitization, you flip a switch, the whole thing changes immediately. So I think we not only have to learn about the smart city, but I think our mind has to accept new challenges and new ways of doing things, and therefore leading to innovative way and means of looking at smart city, if you're talking about system.
I I get it. We'll come to you back in a second. I want to take this one from Arthur Chin, kia ora from New Zealand, 9:49. Isn't it amazing? Here's me, 5:50 in the morning. I love Zoom. I love this. This is talking about digitization. It's 5:50 in the morning. My day hasn't even begun properly. And yet in the evening, where it's 10 to 10 at night, Arthur says he's impressed by everything. So he wants to know, and I think this one is for Dale. How can smaller businesses be involved? How can they be part of the initiative to craft this project? And when you're looking at the investments, are you looking at smaller businesses too?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of smaller businesses getting involved, I mean, I would say talk to Benson. He's got the network. He can sort of, he's got the connections. He can sort of, have you be involved. Yeah, in terms of, us investing in small companies, we're very interested always in smaller companies. That's where we find a lot of value. We like to get, to these companies before they're sort of more broadly known in the market. I'd also say with, a lot of the discussion today has been about regulation. And it's around big tech. This could, potentially be a tailwind for smaller tech as well, going forward. So, yeah, I think, the smaller end of town is definitely a big focus for us.
Benson, this is for you.
Okay.
We are a family office. It's anonymous. We are a family office based out of Hong Kong. How do we get a piece of this delicious pie?
Well, you can ask. Savio is laughing because he was one of them. And so I would say turn to our staff, turn to our website, turn to LinkedIn. We are out there. Reach out. We don't bite. And we would definitely, talk to you.
But are you interested? Are you interested in, do you want more people? And what sort of, do you want people who are looking purely for return, or do you want people who also believe in the concept and the magic?
I think ideally it would be the people who find extra benefit on top of the financial return. We have already said there's a massive opportunity. But I think on top of the financial return, we see a lot of strategic return. Now, family office, I presume our audience there has a business empire of sort, business of their own. And a lot of them join us because we are acting almost like what we call capital partners in a consortium,
right,
going into Smart City. Don't forget, we only do technology. We're not interested in properties. We're not interested in hotels. Feel free. We want all of them to, as you said, drink the Kool-Aid, join in the Smart City, and we all form a consortium. It's a massive undertaking. We are looking at 800 to 1,000 districts like that. Each 2 square kilometer town needs, 2-3 billion of investment, hardware, software, which we do, but we don't do the hardware and the services. It's
right.
Join the party. We need everybody.
And Savio, related to that, a question from Frank Yeo. People are smarter throughout the world. How do we bring this to young, emerging countries? How global can this go?
I think it depends on their own situation, at their own development, in terms of where they are and where they're going. So I think you can start from as simple as taking the ideas and asking the key question: who are our target customer and what value are we bringing to them in the form of a smart city, or to something a lot more tangible? We want to give efficiency in electricity supply, but then less the environmental pollution.
Okay.
Now, those are quite different things.
Before we finish, I'm just going to go ask for John and Benson. Two of you, the question I'm seeing again and again coming up in the Q&A is this question of privacy. And John Peng first. It's not difficult to envisage data privacy becoming an issue in smart cities, given the amount of data you will collect. How, again, I know you've answered this, but I want you to answer it again. How are you planning to navigate this possibility? And from Kevin Chan, how do you balance the smartness of the city and privacy? And I'm guessing, and if this is my interpretation of the questions, this is not a sort of, this question is being asked more out of concern than making a point. How do you balance the two?
Yeah, it's really, you have to understand the laws and regulations, and you have to have experience on working on how to balance the two. The convenience and the user experience, you try to maintain a high level of those and then comply to the laws. And there are technologies that are developing and we're using to help you navigate through this. I think depending on the situation, we can, design an approach to address the data issues. Now, I think more and more people are well aware of the data issues, which is makes our work much easier.
John Peng, thank you. Savio, thank you. Dale, thank you. Michael, stay with us while we finish off. Well, I want to bring back Benson for some final thoughts. I said at the beginning, we have this jigsaw that you have put together, the necessary parts. Is this, in the great scheme of it, what would you like people to take away from what they've heard? From everything you've heard today, what should we take away? Excuse me.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Well, first of all, I would say you have to be venturous here because the world is going digital. There's no turning back. And the center of digital economy is smart cities. Yes, you have privacy issues. Yes, you have other issues. There are a lot of issues. Every time we have a new technology, even when the motor car came, there were issues, okay? Now, the question is that you have to be ahead of this big wave. And that is why I say to people, look, this is one of those risks that you have to take. Have to take meaning that I think the biggest risk here is that you get left out. You get left out. Why? This so reminds me of 3 particular time points before. And imagine if I can somehow have a time machine and take you back to 1991 in Shenzhen, 2001 with the PC internet, or even 2011 when e-payment came out. I ask you, what are you going to do? Are you going to be conservative? Are you going to ask me about privacy and others and say that because of that, I won't do anything? Or are you just going to say, you know what? I don't know, but I'm definitely going to try something because this is way too big to miss. This is probably, like I said, the biggest opportunity in this generation. So that's how I would, that's the message to people. And I think there are no losers. You know, I'm not asking for people to invest. I think people need to learn. That's why we created the session today, just to get people excited. This is something we are going to live in a digital home, and let's build it ourselves. Yeah.
So there is another one of these, isn't there? The Smart Citytech Week. What's the goal there? When and why and why?
It's really for people to get granular. I think people are very curious about technology. So Smart Citytech Week is really a week where we bring in DeepTech experts from the cutting edge in China, where they have a session just like today, where they open your eyes and let you, I tell people, I let you see the future. I let you see potential. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I promised you it would be an hour, and an hour it is. I thank Michael. I thank Dale. I thank Savio. I thank John. And of course, we all thank Benson for inviting us all here in the first place. I should say good night to those of you in New Zealand, good evening and good evening to you in Asia and ASPAC. If you're in Europe, it's a sort of a morning-ish, just about to go. And if you're in New York or in the United States, a very good morning. Wherever you are, and as always, I wish you a good day. And as I always say at the end of Quest Means Business, whatever you're up to in the days ahead, I hope it's profitable. Thank you for joining us.